All right, guys. Final topic for the day, of course, comes from the community. If you have topics for us, tweet at me at Tim Gettys, or actually, just do that. Just do that.
Okay.
Just want all
Things
that
fall
love.
apart. You
All
know
that
what I mean?
Twitter love.
There's so much shit that we do, guys. All right, question number 1 comes from at Snarky Starky.
Good
Thoughts on something like Witcher 3 being 200 plus hours? How do people have that time? Is this too much?
I think it's awesome. I don't think many people have that time. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. I think I look back at Skyrim, right, where I put 25 hours in, 30 hours in, and never beat the game, right? I just went off and did my thing, and then eventually got distracted and left. And that is that gonna happen with Witcher? I don't know. I'm excited to get Witcher and dive into that world and get lost for a while. Is it gonna? But it's. I'm one of those guys who wants to try to do all the side quests or run off and do this or get, you know what I mean? Like, am I going to go back and do everything? I don't know.
So the most exciting thing about when I was out there in Warsaw last month and talking to these guys about the game is that the way that they're handling the sort of additive content, all that side quest or like secondary quest stuff, I think is pretty interesting, because I had the same problem with like Skyrim and like Fallout, where I was often like scared to do the main quest for fear of like not being able to do any of the side quests afterwards, or how much they'd impact on it or whatnot. So like the core story in this game is going to be 200 hours. It's going to be closer to something like 40. It's got about 9 main story missions, and then each of those has got about 2 like secondary missions that split off from it, and those ones can affect the main storyline if you so wish. And if you do the next bit of the storyline, then those secondary missions have stopped. But once you complete that game, the open world is still available. You can still level Geralt. He goes up to level 50, 60. Quests go up to 50. So you can complete the game probably at like level whatever, let's say like 25. And there's still loads more to do if you want to do it. And from my time, I've only played about like 6 or 7 hours of it when I was out there. But like, it was the type of thing where you would find quests off the beaten path that then turned into quest lines that kept going. So a lot of that 200 hours is not like stuff you are required to do. And what I think is the most interesting about games like this, and it's why I love Fallout, is that the idea that there is that stuff to do is almost as exciting as doing it.
Yep.
The idea that you are playing a game and you had this great experience and you only touched about 40% of the content, that's as good as, for some people, as actually going out and playing every single ounce of the game. So in that way, I think it's
that was one of the best
awesome.
things about Fallout 3, right? Would be
Yeah.
coming into the office and be like, oh, what did you do? I went and did this. Where is that? I've never heard of that or seen that. You know, and I ran into this mission. It was this robot thought he was the president. You're like, what are you talking about? That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think we talk about Fallout 3 in a sense of, you know, that moment when you walk out of the vault and you see this world. And for me, that was one of the most mind-altering moments in gaming. And I played games for a very long time. As many of us have, and that experience, like I was like, holy shit! Like this world, especially coming from a console background, we didn't often get games like that. It's not to say that Fallout 3 was the first; it clearly wasn't, but we don't often get games where it's like, here you go, you know, like do whatever the fuck you want. This is more of a PC heritage kind of thing, and Witcher obviously has its heritage on PC. So I'm looking forward to being filled with this sense of awe and wonder and this kind of explorative nature of like, just go and do whatever you can. It's not even whatever you want. It's like whatever you can. I remember when I played the game Witcher 3, when we were fucking around with it, I walked into the woods and there was just these bandits camping. And I got too close to them and they like freaked out on me. And I'm like, I'm not even trying to fight you. And like it was too late. And I was like really just trying to like walk through. And it's like, how many of these moments are there going to be in the game that are like not even side quests or missions, but just encounters?
That are there, yeah.
That said, I'm always skeptical of a developer or publisher talking about how long a game is. We always on Beyond, he's called dev math, and you can typically subtract 30, 40%, sometimes 50% from a number given to you. Like when they would be like
12, 15 hours. Oh, so like 8 or 10. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. But there are games sometimes where I understand how you play it like that. Last of Us was supposed to be a 10 to 12 hour game. It took me 18 hours because I was like so enamored with it. I was just like running around looking at everything. I don't think this might be one of those games, but I think that Witcher 3 is going to be a game that I'm going to spend a lot of time with, and I want to see it all the way through. But I don't know how much time we're going to have to be able to do that. But there's nothing wrong with giving someone 200 hours of content. In a world where people feel like they're being nickeled and dimed, in a world where people feel like pieces are being cordoned off, where DLC is being sold to them that should be in the main game, you cannot complain about CD Projekt Red giving you a game that is 200 hours long, even if it is dev math and even if it's 150 hours long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or even if it's 100 hours long.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like it's an incredible, like it's incredible. God bless them. Congratulations to them. I feel like that game's going to be something special. Very excited about that game.
Awesome.
How do you like growing older? one of the things that I've had trouble with is finding the time for those types of games. Like when I was in college, fucking no problem. I'll just dive in and play Oblivion for like 500 hours. Like I'm just soaking up the time. I don't even need to go to college. Whereas now it's like the ironic thing of like working in games is you spend so much time making all this content and you're like, shit, I don't have any time to play any games. I gotta go home, or
somebody's like, the game's only 4 to 5 hours long. I'm like, fucking perfect.
Great.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? God damn,
Journey.
yes.
Do you? Because I've literally like telegraphed this for my girlfriend. I'm like, look, we've only been living together for like 4 months. No real big games come out. Like I've been playing games here and there, and I've been like diving into Mortal Kombat and shit when you were doing your own thing. But like, I'm gonna be playing this game for like weeks, and it's gonna get weird. And it's been like a kind of I'm gonna be in my underpants. You're gonna have to bring me the nachos, and I'll just stay there. So like, how do you guys deal with that? Like, do you still have that time? Do you like see a game that's got like 200 hours and think, fuck, how am I gonna find the time?
I mean, for
that?
certain games, right? Like Witcher, it has been on the list, and I did this whole breakdown of like how I was going to spend. Like I was in the best 6 months of gaming right now, just the way all these releases were lining up. But I'm lucky enough that my girlfriend's super into gaming. Like, she's currently on the quest to beat all the Witchers before Witcher 3.
Oh, really?
She's already got 1. She's done with 1. She's into 2 now. I mean, she's crazy. But like when we came back from Mexico, I wanted to play Borderlands. She wanted to play Borderlands. So like for like a week, right? That was our dates. We'd eat and then we'd go and we'd just play there and play Borderlands or whatever, and it was great. And so like this is the same thing where we get each other on that level. But yeah, it's totally hard to fit in these games, right? Especially with everything we do and with all the crap we're doing running around. And I know you're the same way. Just like, yeah, you come home, you're done with work about 6, you eat, you do the dishes, it's already 8:30, and it's like, well, how late do I want to be up? Because I have to go to the airport tomorrow at 6 in the morning and da. That's why I like the Vita so much, because it just comes with me and goes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like for me, it's a hell no. I hear it's 200 hours. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Not game for me. It's just not the type of thing I'm gonna do.
But it's
and
like
I
a
just don't
special
have that
game.
time.
That's the thing.
No, for sure. I get that, but I just know for me, that's just not my cup of tea. I like the shorter games. I like all this stuff. But then when you're talking handhelds, totally different thing. Like Pokemon, I love that. I love that I can put 100 hours into a Pokemon game whenever I want, here and there, being on the airplane, doing all this stuff. And like those are games that I just get into and I'm just get lost forever. And like they give you so much side missions and so much shit like that. I love that. All about that. But yeah, 200-hour console game.
It's like an automatic
No way.
no.
It just has to
You
be the
rather
right
not
game.
try than get 3 hours in and then not have the time to
Well, I
keep
mean,
going.
that's my thing though. Is like, to be fair, I've never really gotten into a Fallout, Witcher, or like any of these type of games, just because I'm just like, I know that that's not for me.
You're gonna have a great
Just
retirement.
time-wise. Yeah, I know it's
fucking
gonna be just.
Yeah, I recommend. I don't know if Witcher is maybe the one for you, but when Fallout 4 comes out,
Yeah.
I feel like you know because you think you know. But these games are special, you know, like you might feel like it might be more worth you playing a game like Fallout than it might be worth playing 10 other games. I mean, that's certainly the way I felt when 3 in New Vegas came out. And I think New Vegas is better than 3. Like where, okay, like I'm wiping my slate clean this month. This is what I'm playing. This is better than playing X and Y and Z on these other, you know, it's like,
Well, see,
whatever.
that's my thing. Like, you know, I'm a huge Metal Gear guy, huge Final Fantasy guy, and it's just like Final Fantasy 15, Metal Gear Solid 5. Well, Metal Gear first on the list for me.
That could be a 200-hour game.
But I know, and like to me, I'm like, oh god, no, I don't want that.
But
Like,
you'll have to
please.
make it that way. I mean, because that's what Peace Walker was. Peace Walker, you know, I think my final game clock on it was 98 hours.
Really?
Yeah, and it was, but I beat the game in 16. I
Yeah.
was done with the story, you know,
Yeah.
maybe even less, 12, 16, done with the story. And then it was all the side missions. I want to get an S rank. I want to unlock these people. I want to do that. But, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Metal Gear is going to be the same way.
I hope. I really
Yeah, I
hope.
guarantee it's not going to be like fucking 100 hours of just story.
Well, it
Yeah.
was just 80 hours of cutscenes.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's the problem though with Metal Gear. I mean, they've described it more as like a TV season with like episodes and stuff, whereas like the other games have been movies. It's just like I like the fact that in movies I can get in and get out in 10 hours or whatever. With this, it's like to get the whole story. I'm a little worried that it won't be 200 hours, but it'll be 40 hours. You know what I mean? It'll still be like if I want to hit enough of the TV episodes to get that season.
You should
feel.
play Quantum Break.
No.
Here's a game.
You're not going to play Quantum Break?
No.
What? Why not?
Why?
Because
Remedy
why?
Studios. TV merging with time travel and shit.
Yeah.
This guy's a hater.
no. All right.
guy-
It isn't on his precious 3DS. That's
Then
why,
it's not
ladies and
fucking
gentlemen.
worth it.
It's vaunted library.
There's
of
so many games. The Atomizer wants to know: is it ever too late for young gamers to jump on well-established series? No.
No.
No, I don't think so either.
Have you ever gone back and played a series that where you were too young to play when it came out? Or like, I've done the thing where I've like gone back and played Zeldas because I didn't have a Nintendo growing
Right.
up. I grew up
Yeah.
with like
I think Zelda's a good
Commodore
example.
Amiga, so yeah.
Well, you are European.
Indeed. There's nothing more European than owning an Amiga.
Yeah, no, there certainly is.
Yeah, it's literally girlfriend.
Yeah, I went back to Link to the Past because I was too young for it when it first came out. So I remember I first played through that on GBA when that was a good port. Yeah, there was that, and then the Mega Man games I didn't really even get to until more recently, like just because we've played them here and stuff. Now it's just something that it's never too late to get because
it's never too late, right, to go back. But I mean, some things just don't hold up.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like some kid tweeted me today, and he was like, "Oh man, all you're talking about Metal Gear's got me so stoked. So I'm backing up, and these controls suck."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid controls are not great. You know what I mean? For like what you know now. That's
if people are looking for suggestions, Thief. Go back and play the Thief games. First two ones are
on PlayStation 4. Yeah, it was really good.
Nope. Played original Deus Ex. If you want to get all the hot not Aiden Pierce. What's his name? The Deus Ex man. If you want the rich history. J.C. Denton was
Adam
the old
Jensen?
guy. Adam Jensen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm a game history nerd, and so like I think it's important for people to go back and play games. And I disagree with Greg. I think that some games don't hold up, but many games do, and it's important to know.
What did I say?
You're wrong.
I said all games don't hold up.
I heard him say
that. You said all games don't hold up, and you can go back. Like we've talked about many times that in the polygonal era, games don't hold up, and I think that that's true because a lot of people ask us like, why aren't you doing Let's Plays of N64 and PS1 games? And it's like we might, and I think we might have at some point. But we did Symphony of the Night and stuff like that. But
Superman 64
and Superman 64, which was a great example. But these games typically don't hold up. They look like shit. And while I'm not a graphical guy, like these games are just relics. Like they look like relics. They look and feel even older than the games that they actually came after. But when you go back to like the NES and SNES and even old PC Apple II games and stuff like that, these games hold up actually really well. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Super Mario Brothers on NES is a masterclass in gameplay, and it always will be. It doesn't matter like what happens afterwards. This is a place in time and a group of people that figured something out that everything copies, like everything after it. When you think about Castlevania or Mega Man or all these other, these Contra, all these games, like they're all Mario, just riffs on Mario. And some might say Mario is a riff on Pitfall and so on and so forth. The only way you make these connections and know these things is if you go back and play them. And what makes me cringe is when someone old or young plays a game or gets into gaming but doesn't know anything about the history of games. You have to take the time to know. You can't know where games are right now unless you know where games have been, and it takes time and it takes effort.
That is becoming more difficult and more difficult now because there are just these, like, to use a really shitty business term, there are like verticals within gaming now. It's not the same as before where you could have this like wide appreciation of everything. Like there are plenty of people who will just play like Minecraft forever or just play MOBAs forever. Like I feel like I'm the same as you. Like I really when I meet someone who knows that stuff, like I value them so much and like I love having like conversations about that stuff, but they seem to be, that's the thing that makes me feel old and like an old gamer, is that doesn't seem to be the way things are anymore.
What's funny about that is that, and I agree with you, I don't think it is like that anymore. What's funny to me and gives me heart is that sometimes I'll talk to and interact with an older gamer that maybe doesn't know a lot about gaming history, but then I'll interact with a younger kid that on Twitter or whatever that is talking about how he just went and played Castlevania 3 or something. I'm like, good for you, man. Like that's awesome. It takes effort and time. It's like being a fan of literature but only starting in 2010.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you gotta go back, man. Like you're missing a lot of classics here. And you understand the genome and the kind of the genetic nature of a game by going back. Like you can't know that Symphony of the Night is Super Metroid unless you played both of them.
Yeah.
And that you can't know that like that you can't know Shadow Complex is like Symphony of the Night unless you played both of them.
And expand your palette, and that makes you enjoy every new game more because you see it in the wider context and like you can see where it pulls from. Like I think it makes for a much more like enriching. Like one of my favorite things to do is to like actually put some time aside to get into a genre that or a series that has been like I evaded intentionally growing up. Like, like getting into like Zelda or like trying Final Fantasies or like trying Devil May Cry. Like I think like if it's so easy to get access to like this massive library of old games now that if I was a kid who was like able to save up a bit of money, I'd be just going on eBay and getting NESs with like a bunch of different games or just getting emulators or whatever the fuck and just like soaking up this stuff whenever I had the chance because there's so much of it now as well.
Yeah, and that's the brilliant part of it. And I think that 3DS and Wii are interesting devices to me, not because of the games that are on them right now, but because they have access to all of the games that were awesome. And like you could spend $1,000 on the virtual console and like not even be satiated because there's just so many great games on there. So I always encourage people to go back. I understand if people want to, if someone wants to play just Minecraft or just Candy Crush Saga, more power to you. But if you really want to understand games, you can't understand games by playing them from 2010 onward any more than you can understand rock music by starting with Green Day. You know what I mean? At some point, you have to take the time and effort if you want to really delve into something to go back to the beginning. And I think that that's important, and it's easier to do than it ever has been. So I always encourage people. New games are great. We play games. Greg and I are definitively different in the sense that he feels like generally old game is old, and for me, like I'd rather go play Mega Man 3 than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you totally. As we very well know, I like older games way more than new games. I just keep going back and playing the old ones. But what were you gonna say, Greg?
To not misrepresent my case of old game is old. I'm talking about games that I grew up in the era of. Getting into games now, different story. I would imagine. I'd want to go back and play Super Metroid. I'd want to go back and play Mario, whatever.
Yeah,
Super Mario.
Now, another way to take the question though: is it ever too late for young gamers to jump on well-established series? I think he might be asking like,
we deviated a little bit,
like Metal Gear.
Metal Gear. Can you just play 5 or Witcher? Can you just play 3?
Maybe
Witcher you could just play 3.
And it's like I think it's just it matters what the franchise is because Witcher they know that a lot of the people aren't.
Dude, it's called Witcher Wild Hunt now. Like it's with
the
slash
there
used to be a 3
it.
on that logo.
Yeah.
Like they're very clear about trying to like start anew.
And that's awesome. But then you go to something like Metal Gear.
But here's Metal Gear is going to be an interesting case because this is the whole argument we always had when we did the top 25 PlayStation 3 list at IGN is that Metal Gear was a perfect 10. We didn't put it on the list. Because my argument always was I'm building a list for you buying your PlayStation 3 and you're sitting down and you want to know what the best games are without any other knowledge. You know what I mean? Now, that said, that's how I feel about 4. I think Peace Walker is a game that I would recommend to anyone to go play. Because Peace Walker isn't bogged down in the 3 games prior to it trying to tell you what the story of Solid Snake is and his relationship to Big Boss. This, you start, there's a cutscene, understand, you killed the boss, now you have the boss's voice on a thing. Is she alive? You have to find out, go on your mission. That's all you need to know. You're like, got it, done, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I don't know what we're getting into yet with Phantom
Pain. It's so much more complex with these because like Final Fantasies, they're not really connected, but then they have their little weird sequels, and then like games like Fallout are like, no, like they're all riffs on the same like thing, but like I really like playing Fallout 3. If you play Fallout 1 and 2, there's actually quite a lot of like really cool references there.
Yeah,
you wouldn't get, but like no.
I think that's the thing is it makes the experience better having played the other ones, but I feel like majority of games, probably a high majority of games, 90% of games are designed to be able to just play that one because that's business. You're not going to sell. You're going to sell way less if you're limiting the audience for that game. Yeah. But if you are committed to all the prequels and stuff, you're going to enjoy it more. You're going to get all the references. You're going to get all that stuff. So.
You're right. It happens so much more in games as well. Like even Half-Life 1 and 2, like direct sequels in terms of story. You can play 2 and love it without having a clue what happened in the first game.
Yeah.
Like.
And I would put forth, by the way, about Metal Gear Solid 5 that there's a pretty good opportunity that you will not understand the story anymore, whether you have
played the other ones or not.
Totally. I mean, you look at the trailers and stuff, but I'm just putting it out there.
All right, cool. Dan, we got a couple questions for you.
Oh, man.
Camacross wants to know, what's the last time you cried playing a video game?
Oh, man. The first time I cried, I remember, was which is not the question you asked, was Call of Duty charging Stalingrad. Like final Russian mission when you go up to the top of the that fucking killed me. The last time I cried, god damn it, I don't know. I think that I know a couple I did do, like Depression Quest was one. I did that on a live stream as well. The like final page of that like fucking killed me because I have a history of mental health with depression specifically and OCD and stuff. Probably that. I can't think of any off the top of my head that otherwise I got. It's always stuff that like rings true to you personally. Like I know lots of people would like Gone Home, for instance, was like that wasn't going to affect me because the subject matter and the story wasn't something that was going to. And that's the thing that happened with games are still good at that. They're good at like tapping into something that's innately in you. I feel like films are better at making you empathize with characters and making you cry, and we still haven't really cracked that one. That Journey at the end kind of got to me a bit, but then I have a sort of a weird thing about death as well that it like hit that little nerve. So probably Journey or Depression Quest, I'd say.
Awesome.
Ugh.
Chip the Ripper wants to know, how offended are you by Greg's UK accent?
Well, I'm more offended by him by saying that I'm from the UK, because I'm from the Republic of Ireland, which is not part of the United Kingdom.
Damn, son. Chip the Ripper, you just got ripped.
I think he just knows that you're foreign and you'll defend how bad the oi is.
That's foreign.
And nearly put Gary Witt in a coma.
Global Aggie wants to know, how was Europe different in the early days of video games from the United States for you?
Ooh, we dipped into it a little bit earlier. There was Nintendo didn't permeate as early, because obviously like it was Japan first, then North America, and then Europe was kind of took a little bit of time. So NES was more Super NES, or SNES as we say back home. Sorry, that sort of got in there. PlayStation's incredibly popular. So when the Xbox stuff happened, nobody gave a fuck. Nobody bought Xboxes. It wasn't until the 360 that got popular. But the early days stuff, we like things like the BBC Micro never made it over here. The Atari ST was huge. Commodore 64 was huge, but like way bigger over there. Like the Amiga, the Spectrum, like these were things that everyone had. So it wasn't consoles, it was computers and computer games that people had. Back then, PC was always massive as well. So those were the consoles. There was a degree of homogenization when the PlayStation era came in. But like, for instance, like PlayStation in Ireland, it was the second highest per capita rate of consoles of PlayStations in the world. Second only to Japan was first. So that's how popular PlayStations are in Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of homogenized a bit now. I still think it's more of a PlayStation thing in the UK and Ireland. On the continents, it's a bit harder to read because it was very much like a UK gets stuff first because of English language, and then it sort of slowly went into the rest. Like one of the weird ones is like Pro Evolution is super popular on the continent. FIFA is really popular in the UK and Ireland. Like what has that got to do with marketing as much as it has to do with anything else? But yeah, in the early days, it's mostly that stuff. I talk about Commodore games. Like my favorite games were Sensible World of Soccer and Cannon Fodder and stuff like that. Like games that like people over here generally didn't play. Games that eventually were ported, or some of them never did. Like Zool and James Pond. You know, games started off.
Commodore 64 was the first console my family ever had. It was my dad's. And yeah, James Pond. My God, that Jumpman
My
shit.
God.
Yeah, Jumpman.
Those are ridiculous.
My favorite game ever during that era on my Amiga was The Secret of Monkey Island. And then and that's all like how I feel so lucky in the job I do now is because you guys came on the lobby yesterday, and like that was the third or fourth time we had Tim Schafer on the show, who like literally is the dude who made one of the games that made me want to do this.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Pretty
we live crazy ass lives.
Totally.
All right, final question for today. It's for all three of you guys. Cody Lewis wants to know, what's it like covering a game you think sucks or are not interested in?
Preview?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. Because you kind of want to give a game a little bit of a benefit of a doubt. You don't want to be slamming something that's early. I feel like we have a responsibility to the people who listen to us to warn them of games that are of poor quality. I think it's disappointing. But I think the thing that happens mostly, maybe you guys have been in this gig a lot longer than I have, but the thing that I've seen a lot is that the games that suck you tend not to get a lot of access to, and the games that are like the most confident, like we went over to play this Witcher, we went over to shoot these features, and we were in Warsaw for like 4 days. Like those guys know they've made a fucking great game, so they're like, go play it, and they're like allowing YouTubers in Europe last week to just fucking play it for like 15 hours, go for it. So in my experience, that's been the case where the real shitty games you just don't really see that much. Has that always been the way?
No, you'll still have to go see shitty games, and like, yeah, it sucks. Seeing a shitty game sucks. You know what I mean? Especially if it's preview, right? Because then I usually just clam up, do the thing, and then I'm done, and I try to just go. And then if they ask my opinion, I have to say I don't like it. Yeah. And then I get into a whole rigmarole of like, why didn't you like? What didn't you like? And then I'm just like, I just want to go. Like your game's not good. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's not working. And like the bigger thing is, he said a game you're not interested in. That was really the worst. When back when I first started at IGN, it was like, you're a reviewer, you're gonna review everything. And I've never played a game in this franchise, this genre. I'm not a fan of this genre. No, that's just now you're developing. So you're fucking. They'd give me these RPGs that are just like 30 hours long on the PSP, and I'm like, this is fucking terrible, and I hate it. You know what I mean? But then you have to sit there and separate. Do I hate the game, or do I just hate the mechanics? And then is it a bad game, or is it just that I don't enjoy this kind of game? And I have to balance that. That was really hard. And then, of course, the reviews or even the previews of a game you're not interested in are always the worst, because it's so easy to be like, I loved this, this, and this, or I hated this, this, and this. And to be like, when you're in that when you're in that meaty 6.0 area, just like, oh, shit, it's a game. Good fans of the genre might enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like,
What are you calling?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add that these guys haven't said already, other than to say that the beauty of Kind of Funny is that if we if we have to deal with a bad game, we can identify it and just not deal with it anymore because we're kind of out of the more traditional business. So like when we do Let's Plays, we do Let's Plays intentionally of some bad games, typically like something like Superman 64 or whatever, to show you like, wow, look how bad this game is. But generally like to celebrate games we like. And that's kind of and so while we warn people about games that we don't like, as Danny was saying, it's almost like something that's telegraphed now, where it's like, well, we can maybe say that we didn't cover this game because we don't like it and we don't really have anything positive to say about it, or you can just kind of focus on these games that we know we do like, and so and you can kind of like risk it with these other games we don't talk about. I think the only game we spent a lot of time with that we didn't really like was The Order.
Oh, really?
And I think that's probably fair to say, right? I mean,
even that I didn't hate.
I didn't hate it, but I think that game was a massive disappointment.
Sure. I remember meeting you at we ended up bumping into each other at a couple of different press ones, and that was a game that I fucking did not like for whatever reason. It just from the jump I just did not like it, and I was pretty vocal about it because I was sure that I really did not like this game. But you're right, it's like it's the stuff where you're kind of just like disinterested in it.
It's just a middling.
And it's interesting you brought up the like stuff's being telegraphed in a way that's like E3 is like this kind of relic of old where like, oh, the press are going to play these games and we'll get like early previews and then we go and report on them, we tell people what they like. But like especially the space you guys work in a weird way, the script has been flipped because the games that you guys want to play are the ones that are like doing really good on Greenlight and like the ones that are like having good early access, you know, like hype around them. So in a weird way, and I definitely feel like it on when we do GameSpot plays on the site, is that we're being informed by like the masses in a way. Like those games are surfacing now, like the good ones. So it's not like before where publishers would present this platter of games and you're like, oh, which ones would you like to taste today? It's like now it's like, oh no, that's a good one, that's a good one, that's a good one. You know, check them out.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, that's what's kind of satisfying about the space is we don't necessarily have to persist in the space where we have to be all encompassing.
Yeah, it's good. I like it a lot. Well, guys, that was the first ever episode 18 of the Kind of Funny Games cast.
I'm back on board. Good.
I'm sorry.
Good.
I knew I'd win you over. I knew you'd win over. Thank you guys so much for your time. Until next time, I love you.